Hello and welcome to Industry Spotlight with Creative First. Our guest today is Ujjwal Nirgudkar, Chairman, Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers India section and member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. The Academy is known around the world for its annual Academy Awards, both officially and popularly known as the Oscars. He has over 4 decades of experience working in the Indian film industry, specializing in film preservation and restoration. Ujjwal has played a crucial role in the $100 million National Film Heritage Mission, a digitization and restoration project implemented by the National Film Archives of India. He is the first Indian to be invited by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences as a member of the Science and Technology Council. He is also an active member of the Academy's Production and Technology branch. In addition to his work in film preservation, he advises the government of Maharashtra on the development of Film City and the government of India on film festivals and other projects. Previously, he was the chief technical advisor for KPMG. He holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from ICT University of Mumbai and a diploma in business management from Indian Merchant Chambers, Mumbai. Ujjwal, welcome to this discussion.
Thank you.
Tell us more about the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers India.
I would rather introduce the SMPT, which started in the US. This is one of the oldest organizations in the world to set standards for film, television, audio, and video. This started in the year 1916 as SMP, Society of Motion Picture Engineers. And that time, the First World War was going on. And the US government felt that to train the military, they need something standard like a film because it was very difficult to train military at different locations around in the entire country around the world. And so the initial start of SMP was to standardize the training of the military.
Wow.
And this was at that time the US government invited the top technicians from this industry to standardize this. That is how the 35 film was standardized those days. And the T was added in the year 1950 when television started in US. And I was aware of this organization because of my first job at a film center. We were getting the monthly magazines from this uh, monthly journals of this institute. And when I was reading those magazines, I was knowing the contribution of technicians around the world for the entertainment industry. And that time I thought that since India makes the maximum number of films, why can't we also contribute to the technology? And that is how my interaction started with SMPT. And I presented my first technical paper at the Los Angeles conference of SMPT in the year 1993, almost 31 years back. So, and when I went there to Los Angeles. Not only I presented the paper, but I got into contact with top technicians from Kodak, from Technicolor, Deluxe, and that was my first interaction to Hollywood. And I was invited by some of the studios and also by Kodak to visit their factory, and that is how this interaction started.
What is the current contribution of SMPP, in India?
Yeah, so in 2007, then I presented two subsequent paper, one in 1993 at New York conference, and the third one 2002 in Los Angeles conference. And I received two US patents for that technology, which was a technology to convert film to digital. A calibration system was introduced by me. And for my this contribution in 2007, SMPT gave me the fellowship award at the New York conference. I was the first Indian to receive the fellowship award. And when I received this fellowship and I got recognition from SMPT, I thought now it is time for me to give back to that institution. And I decided that we should open a chapter in India so that first of all, this technology interaction is available to Indian technicians. And we also get a lot of information from their conferences, from their magazines, journals. So in 2011, It took some time because there is some procedural delays and other things. But in 2010 December, actually, I gave a petition to the Board of Governors of SMPT to start a section in India. It was approved, and in 2011 we have started this section. And definitely, I got a very good response from Indian technicians. We had several meetings for all these years, and also the visit of SMPT Executive Director twice has happened. The SMPT President has come to India. So this was a really good start for India or Indian technicians to interact with SMPT.
And since 2011, what has been the progress of SMPT in India?
Yeah, I think that time the technology was also changing. I mean, earlier we started with film technology, and the technology was changing, and all these technological changes were introduced by SMPT. Particularly, they made standards for the digital cinema for the entire world. The same standard we could use it for India as well. And around the same time, around 2010, I introduced this digital standard for International Film Festival of India. That year, we had almost 50% of the films available on film print media, as well as 50% on the new digital media. So keeping the same standard from film to digital was a challenging task. SMPT has introduced a standard called DPRO, Digital Projection Verifier, which was used for the first time for IFI in November 2010. And why we require this? Because when the film prints were made, these prints were color corrected in the film laboratories. The colors were locked in the film. And whenever you go to any projector anywhere in the theater, the colors won't change because the prints are already made at the lab. But when we start change to digital technology, the problem was every digital projector had its own calibration system. So even if you have made a particular DCP, digital cinema package for distribution of motion picture, when you take it to a particular theater, the colors which will be shown in the theater depended on the calibration of that particular projector in the theater. So this was very much essential. And to control that or to check that, SMPT had made a small DCP, their own standard film, which we used to project and check it with the calibration meter, photometer, and calibrate all the colors. So with this, we could ensure that the colors shown in the projection in any particular theater are standardized. So, and particularly for a film festival, you get films from around the world. So those are made by different post-production companies, different cameras. So to bring that to one standard was always a challenge. When you show a particular film for a commercial release, which is shown for almost a week. So whenever they start the projection on Friday, within one or two shows, they know what is the exact calibration, and that continues for almost a week for that release. But in film festival, every show is different. Every film is from different source. It can be from different countries. So that is why this calibration really helps there. And that gives you a standard. And why we want to calibrate again? Because there are so many technicians, right from cinematographers to the post-production technician, take a lot of care, and they spend a lot of time and money on grading these films at the DI suite. If that effect is not seen in the theater, it's of no use. So we have to give a proper justice to the people who have worked for that particular film, and showing that film in the correct way, in the correct way the cinematographer, director, or the actors have worked for it, gives a proper justice to them. And I think this is the way we have to do it, not only for film festival, but for regular shows as well.
As a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, how do you contribute to advancing global film standards and practice?
Yeah, now I was introduced I was invited as a member of the Production and Technology branch in the year 2017. I was the first Indian technician to be invited in that science and technology branch. And then in October 2020, they took me as a member of the Science and Technology Council. This council normally consists of about 24 to 26 members around the world, and majority of these people are either the senior vice president technical or the CEOs of big studios like Warner, Paramount, Sony Pictures, Walt Disney. Also, the head of Google Cloud is on our committee. The head of Library of Congress, the US government archive, is on our committee. And the aim of this committee is to decide the technologies which will be coming in the next 10 years and which will be used by the media and entertainment industry in the world. So it's a pioneering work, not only for India, but globally. And I'm really fortunate to work with these people for almost 4 years, 4 consecutive years now. Since this year itself, 2024 October, they have also taken me on an executive committee of the academy. And as a part of this executive committee, I can select the new members, as well as now I am on the subcommittee of the Academy Museum, which is there in Los Angeles. So the museum programming also I can contribute. So this is really a good opportunity to interact with academy. And actually all these things were possible because during COVID, they introduced the Zoom meetings. Earlier, most of the meeting used to be physical meeting. Like every time I could not have traveled to US for all these meetings. But with Zoom meeting, it's very easy to contribute. And of course, I had to attend those meetings at odd hours, maybe late night or early morning. But that is still interesting to interact with all these top technicians. Recently, the academy also invited me as one of the panelists for their conference at IBC, International Broadcast Convention at Amsterdam. And this was again to represent academy on an international platform was a good opportunity. And I thank those people, the organizers of the academy.
How has film preservation in India evolved over the years?
Actually, what happened, we made films the feature film started in the year 1913 when Dadasaheb Phalke made his first feature film, Raja Harishchandra. And definitely we have the longest film history in terms of not only feature film, but also documentaries. So the oldest documentary which we have at the National Film Archives, Pune, is a 1895 documentary made by a British cinematographer on the bank of Ganga River in Kolkata. So that was done using a hand crank camera. Those times the cameras were also had to be operated with hand. So such an old history we have. And unless we preserve this history for the next generation, it will be lost. And we also make the maximum number of films in the world. Earlier we used to make 20, 30 films a year when we started. But now we make about 1,700 films a year, approximately 1,700 films a year. So for more than 110 years, we have been making film. 111th year. This is the 111th year of filmmaking for India. We started in 1913. So we have thousands of films available. Earlier, these films were in different formats, like some of the prints were on cellulose nitrate base. Then the next was cellulose acetate. And 1996 onward, there was a polyester base. Now, polyester base is very stable, but the earlier bases, nitrate, used to catch fire immediately. Then cellulose acetate was interacting with a humid and moist atmosphere in India to create acetic acid, which is called a vinegar syndrome. So that is how the film used to get damaged. And unless we store these films in a proper condition, like proper air conditioned condition, proper humidity and proper temperature, this won't last long. So this kind of effort has to be done by somebody, and government took initiative. And this can be only done by government because most of our earlier film producers were individual families. They were not corporates. So what has happened? These film prints were or negatives were lying with them. They were not knowing exactly how to store it. And particularly the passion which the original person had was not there in the next third or fourth generation. So somebody has to tell them that, yes, this is one facility was opened by the government, which was opened in the year 1964 at Pune. And they have one of the huge storage, multiple storages units to preserve and keep this film for long term. Now, a massive digitization program has already started. Currently, there are more than 20,000 film prints and negatives available at the National Film Archives, out of which in the first phase, which happened much before this National Film Heritage Mission started, that happened between 2008 to 10, where I was a part of the technical committee, and most of the earlier black and white short films or nitrate films have been converted to safety films and preserved those days, about 500 films. And now this is one of the biggest program in the world, 100 million or about more than 600, 700 crore program to digitize and preserve 5,000 feature and short films. And the most of the digitization work has almost finished. The restoration work is still going on. And I was involved there as a chief technical advisor from 2016 to 2023 when we started this project in 2016. And definitely this happened those in that particular year because the INB minister and the finance minister was same those years. Mr. Arun Jaitley, late Arun Jaitley was the finance minister as well as INB minister. So with the digitization policy of the Modi government, the funds were made available for this project. And this is one of the biggest projects in the world. And everybody in the world is looking at the success of this particular project. And definitely, this is very much important for a country like us because most of the earlier films, which were only on film format and could not be shown digitally or on OTT platforms, can be now converted to digital, then can be restored and be shown to the young generation, which has never seen these films earlier.
Absolutely. And we hope that, there is going to be further investment, as this initiative progresses. With the rise of streaming platforms, how has the demand for film restoration evolved?
Actually, what has happened now to make a film, even a new film, it costs you a lot of money. And whereas we have a treasure of old good films available, which were never marketed in the digital platform. That is possible only when you digitize and restore. Restoration is required because most of the earlier prints in India at the labs were made from original negatives, whereas Hollywood always used duplicate negatives. Hollywood, so whenever a shooting is done, they used to make 3 or 4 or sometimes 8 to 10 duplicate negatives, and the prints were made from there. So the original negatives were kept in a good condition. Unfortunately, in India, because the raw stock was very costly and the early years when this was actually rationed by NFDC, National Film Development Corporation, only 100 film cans were available per picture because it was imported. We need a lot of foreign exchange to import the stocks, and there was a duty of between 200 to 300% on it. So it was very costly to make a film those days. And so if making original negative itself is too costly, you cannot afford to make more duplicate negatives. So there was a technical reason why we use original negative to make more prints. And when a particular negative is used several times, it can develop some scratches, lines, and it can get damaged. So that is why restoration is very much required for Indian film, which may not be the case restoration is required for Hollywood films as well, but they have the original negatives available. Unfortunately, it was not available in India, but we have still managed to do it.
How do you see artificial intelligence and machine learning contributing to film restoration in the future?
Definitely, AI, artificial intelligence, is going to contribute to more than digitization. It is going to contribute more to the restoration, because in restoration, what we do when it is a pristine restoration, we have to clean or restore the film frame by frame. There
Right.
are 24 frames in 1 second. So you can imagine there are lakhs of frames in a particular movie, which runs between 2 hours 30 minutes. Now, each and every frame currently we have to do manually. So there are several artists who have been trained for this, and they work on certain scenes or certain frames. And this is a repetitive job, although it is a skilled job, but it is a repetitive job, and where the artificial intelligence can definitely pinpoint certain defects and automatically correct it with using a saver software. So definitely this will be a saving in labor and also time and the cost of the restoration. If artificial intelligence is used and the cost of restoration goes down, definitely more and more films will be available for restoration also. Because the major problem or hurdle in this restoration is the cost. Because most of the original producers are not available, who will pay for it? And then how do we market it? Fortunately, OTT platforms is the new market available for even the old films. And if some companies invest in this restoration, and with AI, if it becomes still cheaper, definitely more and more old films will be available, not only in India, but throughout the world. Also, one of the main reason of using this National Film Heritage Mission is not only the distribution part, but it is a big tool for the research people around the world. If somebody wants to do research on Indian films, on Indian dances, Indian song, Indian costumes, this gives a lot of information. The old films give them a lot of information. So, as a uh, policy, the government will make these films available free of cost to the students and also to the research people who want to do the research on films. So that way, it will also continue to have the more information about the history of Indian film, which will be available to the next generation as well.
You
Because
mentioned
yeah, one point is that in India, in Hollywood, most of the films, because Kodak was an American company, they used Kodak to make the negatives and prints. But in India, because this was very costly, we have also imported films from other countries like Fujifilm from Japan, Agfa Gewalt from Germany, Orwo from East Germany. And all these films require different technology because the base emulsion is slightly different. So restoration technologies are also different. So our project is different than the project in Hollywood or in other countries because we use several stocks and all these stocks need to be restored to the same color calibration. And that is why India is doing more work of restoration than the other countries.
so you mentioned earlier that in 2016 this project started with a goal of restoring 5,000 films.
Yeah.
But how many films actually need to be restored? Because I'm sure we've made far more films than just 5,000. And how are these films picked? And how do you see the timeline in restoring everything? Will that take another 3 years, 4 years with emerging
See,
technologies like AI, etc.?
restoration is a continuous process and it does take time, particularly pristine restoration. As I told you, frame by frame, if you're doing, it is going to take time. So we had to select the films, and particularly for National Film Archive, they have to select film from various languages. It's not only Hindi, but all regional languages. So the under this project, committees were formed, regional committee and a central committee for the selection of the films, and people from various industries, those who have already worked in this industry historians, everybody was invited for the selection of the film. So a first list was made of films which are more damaged and which are more important from the historical point. So the priority was given to those prints, and the other things are, this is a continuous process. As and when we get more funds, the things will go on. But certain films are lying with the producers also, and so there is a parallel program happening outside the government. They themselves are investing in this, certain studios or certain companies, because they also find that there is a market for it and there is a need for it. So there are like film preservation from Shivendra Singh Dungarpur is also doing
Yes.
effort, separate effort to do this. So all these things are welcome. And the thing is, since India made maximum number of films, I think we need more regional film restoration units also at different states. And this was one of the policy the central government actually advised. So in Maharashtra also, there is a Marathi film archive which has been created, and the funds will be available for that, so that the regional films can be digitized and restored by the Maharashtra government. I am also advisor to them for this project. But since there were a lot of changes happening recently in the government, I hope now the policies will continue.
Thank you so much for this insightful discussion, Ujjwal. It's been a pleasure always to speak with you, and I'm sure your efforts will reap results, and we should do a lot more to educate, especially youngsters, on film restoration and preservation.
I personally feel that the youngsters, we should have proper training to them, because most of the people who are from with the IT background, definitely they can be used for restoration with a proper training in how exactly we need the restoration of the films. And for India, there is a lot of opportunity, because not only we can do restoration of Indian films, but we can also outsource work from Hollywood or from other countries in India, because comparatively we have a lot of labor available, and we can do it at much cheaper rate than in other countries. And this can become like a source of income, and potential jobs, new jobs can be created in this industry as well for the youngsters.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.